Everybody, welcome back inside another exciting episode of the Stash, Portland Stash Project. Today is November 28th, 2019, and most of our information today will be of the Japanese nature, as the tends to be. If you've followed this channel for a long time, you tend to figure it out by now how the flow of things goes. This video is always sort of the heavy Japanese video, as the third week of the month is usually the sort of the mass release of the Japanese kits as far as what was scheduled to come out for the month. And then the first week of December will probably be a cleanup video where we'll get little bits and pieces of Japanese kits that clean up their November releases, as well as getting in the last of, or the first of, like, round two's kits. Usually the stuff that's scheduled for late November for round two usually doesn't actually make it until the very beginning of December, and so on and so forth. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump on into it. I'm trying to think if there are any kit news pieces as far as things that have been added, and I do not believe there actually are this week, which is a rather odd situation, but you know, it is, again, the end of the month here, so we should probably get it, maybe some newer announcements come next week. But let's just hop over to Japan and get these kits out of the way, because, again, we are just dealing with their stuff, and they're just a bunch of reissues this week. A couple of, one of which, I should say, is not so much modified, but it is a combination kit, and there's also a modified reissue that we've been waiting on for quite a while as far as the Japanese release. As I look at my images here, I realize that I actually do have a teaser to talk about, and it is this right here from Ebro. There was recently a die-cast model show in Japan, and hiding in the back of all of their die-cast cars, because if you don't know, Ebro pretty much really does more die-cast than anything. A lot of 1/18th and 1/43rd scale pieces, especially as it relates to Super GT. Stuck in all of that was this Renault 4 GTL kit with a piece of, like, you know, test box art kind of print underneath of it. Yes, they are doing a Japanese taxi in 1/64 scale diecast, but this is kind of interesting because Ebro, if you have the Renault 4L that they did, that can be built either sort of an early 4L from like 1962 or a later one from the 1970s. The car actually ran from like 1962 to like 1992 or 93. It's a very long production car, much like the Citroen 2CV was, where it went on forever, it seemed like. And then ended up basically being emissions and safety regulations ruled the car out rather than it wasn't popular itself. The Ford GT, their 4L had a canvas roof, and it was, you know, sort of a convertible version. A lot of the Citroen 2CV kits were that way. I'm trying to think, like Tommy's has a canvas roof as well in their Citroen. But they did offer, if you knew how to order it, a steel roofed body and the GTL conversion package, which was a grille and some bumpers and door mirrors and things like that. They sort of converted it to, I think 1978 was the beginning of the Ford GTL, which had a slightly larger engine, and we're talking about, you know, like tiny metric fractions of bigger, still, you know, a teeny tiny little engine, and those pieces were available if you ordered them directly from Ebro. They didn't sell them, you know, in hobby. I might have sold them a couple hobby shops in Japan. You can't ever put anything past what goes on over there in the terms of, we don't, you know, nobody here in the United States is, you know, spot checking all of the Japanese hobby shops on a week-to-week basis, going, well, so what you selling in here? But they did sell the parts directly through their website, and you could get them in the United States if you asked nicely to have them, you know, figure out what the shipping would be to get them over here. But what's very interesting about this is these wheels that are on this, were on that box art and kit, are not the wheels that were offered with their Ford GTL conversion. Now, Heller did a Renault 4L as well, and it was a brand new tool kit probably 3 years ago now, and theirs was a Ford GTL, and it was like a 1983 or 84, something like that, and it comes with versions to do like a police car, a taxi, a fire engine, and just a civilian. Obviously, you just don't put the other doodads on the car at that point, and it's a full detail kit the way a lot of Heller's things were in terms of engines and things like that. And that was sort of like, oh, okay, well, I bought one of those because it complemented the the 4L from Ebro. It was in later production car. It's the high-end GTL package and things like that. I'm very interested to see what this kit actually is, should it ever actually materialize in real life. You know, Ebro is very good about showing you a model kit that they then don't actually ever release for, it seems like 2 to 3 years later. Look how long it took to get the what is it, the DS21 version of the awesome Citroen kit that I have. Eat your heart out, Brian. And that being said, it should be, this could be a very, very late production for GTL, like a very late 1980s, very late 1990s, because I don't know where these rims would come from. I'm sure there's some guy watching right now from the UK or somewhere in England, or Europe rather, who's banging their head off their monitor or their phone right now, going, "You moron! You don't understand the fine or points of French car details." But I personally, if you look up like Renault 4Ls on like Wikipedia, just try to figure out where the years were, stuff like that, I don't see a single reference shot of this set of wheels, which makes me think again that it's sort of a later, even later production kit than the Heller one is in terms of what it represents. So that makes me wonder what other new parts would be in here, because that like sort of like late 80s, early 90s kit, in addition to possibly having these different wheels, also had a slightly different interior as far as the seats and the dashboard and things like that. It had a slightly different engine. Now, the engine wouldn't be a very big problem for the folks over at Ebro, because the bigger engine that was in these 4 GTLs was the engine that is in fact in the Estafette, the little like sedan delivery thing that they did, or the Fourgonnet, I guess is technically what we would call it. And you know, I'm trying to think what the hell an Estafette is. An Estafette's a 2CV, but it's the same principle with a great big corrugated sedan delivery. And so the engine, they have the different engine to put into this to make it correct that way. So, be interesting to see exactly what they're doing with this. Like I said, it was not mentioned anywhere. It just happened in the background of pictures I was looking at, because I'm always, you know, scouring the internets for all the details, and so we've managed to sort of catch that by accident. And yeah, so we'll see where that ends up as time goes along. So we go over to pretty much Aoshima here. One B-Max kit, a couple of Hasegawa. So we'll touch the Hasegawa reissues real quick. These are just factory restocks, and they are the Suzuki Jimny JA111. So this is just a restock of this kit, nothing new there. And then also a restock of their Toyota Celica 1600 GT production steel type wheel. So this has the factory stock wheels. This is not a new kit. This reissue with these new wheels was done 2.5, 3 years ago, I want to say, at this point, because it's been reissued. Reissued at least once. And this will be the second time that the limited edition is not really all that limited. The original Celica 1600 GT kit that Hasegawa sells comes with a set of Watanabes on it, and not a factory stock set of Toyota rims. And so, like I said, 2-3 years ago, they decided, hey, why not? One of the big things we always hear about this kit is, well, you know, why don't you offer it with factory stock rims? And so, you know, a couple $1,000s worth of tooling later, you have factory stock rims. If I had my druthers and the ability to demand Hasegawa make something, I would say, hey, throw a left-hand drive conversion into this kit, so that those of us who wanted to build a export spec Celica could do so. But in the meantime, that's back out. And then over at Aoshima, again, most of these things are going to be straight reissues. So we have this from the Liberty Walk line. It is the Japan Works Liberty Walk Skyline, which is a 1980 Skyline with all the Liberty Walk stuff in here. This is the original kit from the Liberty Walk series, Liberty Walk kit number 1. So this has been around for 4 or 5 years at this point. So it's just a straight restock. And also on the straight restock train, you have this, which is, of course, the Liberty Walk R35 Type 1.5, I believe is what this is. And again, just a restock of the kit. Then you have the actual sort of releases for this month as far as things that are coming back. A straight reissue is this, what they call the Mr. and Mrs., which is a Ken and Mary. Skyline 2000 GT ES 1977. You see kit number 52, so it's a reissue of a kit that came out a couple of years ago at this point, when they ran through all their Skylines. You have a reissue of this on the tuned model car side, which is the Datsun 720 custom truck, which is a low rider type thing. It has the same sort of workable suspension that the Toyota does, which gives it a not very accurate like suspension because it's all articulable as far as dropping it and making it, you know, stand and making one end stand up and the other end not, and things like that. It's a cool piece if you're into that sort of thing. This is another kit that, you know, if Aoshima were to spend a couple of $1,000 putting a regular chassis underneath this and making a left-hand drive conversion for it would be cool, but it is what it is. One kit that is sort of a combined kit. You'll notice the stock number on the kit number on this is 119, so that's to let you know this is an actual kit from this month that is a new release in that sense, is the Subaru Sambar fire truck. So this is a combination kit. These were two separate kits that were done in the past. The one in the background is the newer version, like the 2012 or 2014 Sambar. It was the first kit that was released, and then they released the one in the front here, which is a 2007, and it's specific to the Subaru engine and transmission factory in Japan. It's their little sort of you know, corporate fire truck, if you will. Basically, you know, your differences here are the grills and the bumpers and a few other things. The actual loadouts for the fire apparatus are actually different between the sort of Tokyo City trash truck and the Subaru factory truck. So that's kind of cool that they actually went that little extra mile in terms of the payload, if you will, of the fire engine itself. Otherwise, the kits are pretty much identical. They don't include any of the wording, I don't think, on the decal sheets that specify where these were. The original kits did. That may be a licensing thing. Maybe they had to license, you know, from the Tokyo Fire Department or license from the Subaru factory fire department or whatever. Or they may be there and I just didn't see them when I glanced at the parts contents. But it's cool to have these back, and like I said, it's a sort of a value proposition here. You can build it either way. You don't have to buy two separate kits. You can only build one. There's only one kit worth of parts in here, but you get to choose which one rather than being forced to, you know, get what you get, sort of, so to speak. And then the last kit we're going to talk about this week is the long overdue Japanese release of the Toyota Carina E, the 1994 British Touring Car Championship kit. So this is, of course, the Castrol car. There really aren't that many new pieces to this kit necessarily. I believe there's a spoiler in here that isn't mentioned. I think it's in there because like the 1995 version uses a spoiler, and I'm pretty sure I've seen somebody doing some work with one that had a spoiler that I don't know that's a piece of aftermarket. I don't have mine yet. I got these in; they're still in Japan yet. But there's a left-hand drive dashboard. That was the sort of the big new piece to it. More or less, everything else is the same as the Corona. That was a 1994 JTCC car. I find it very ironic that the British touring car, you know, England-based touring series has a left-hand drive car, but it is what it is. If you followed any of the videos we have done so far on the Corona that we have, I don't know, 2/3 of the way built, you know that you had to drill out all the holes in the chassis pan as far as the seat mounts and the computer mounts and things like that. And it was very obvious when you looked at the kit that there was obviously a left-hand drive version coming because there's mirrored sets of flashed over holes. Same thing with like the fuel filler. There were mirrored over fuel filler doors so that the fuel filler is on the other side of this car than compared to the Japanese version. So it's just a hoot to have this kit come out. From what I understand, Frankie is going to be doing at least one set of British touring car decals for this that extend this car into the next year, into 1995. Those will require a different set of wheels because this kit has the same wheels as the Corona does, so we'll see what we have to do to get those wheels necessarily. But that should be an interesting set of decals when it gets done. And then that kit also has its own specific photo etch set, which is, you know, something you expect out of BMAX. All of the kits, more or less, have their own complementary photo etch set. This one is pretty much a direct carbon copy of the Corona one, almost to the letter. I don't, not having a Corona photo etch set that I've used half of at this point, I don't believe I see any single thing in here that's any different than the Corona one. Obviously, it's just made up for the Carina instead. And you know, you get what you normally get in a photo etch set from them: seatbelt ribbons, some seatbelt decals, air jack and injector port, the metal antenna, and then the photo etch, which is pretty decent for this kit. I mean, it gives you a couple of detail pieces like the seat brace, a footrest brace that is not included. It is included in the kit, but it's pretty poorly molded compared to the photo etch piece, which is a little bit of an origami project to get folded up the right way. But once you do, it's very three-dimensional, which is cool because a lot of the complaints or problems with photo etch is that, you know, it's very one-dimensional when the object is really three-dimensional, and sometimes the photo etch piece doesn't actually make the kit look any better than it does. An example of that is that big box that's in the middle of it that basically covers the fuel tank. I put mine on. It just folds over top of the plastic piece. I'm sure you could probably take the plastic piece off, but there are holes in the actual photo etch piece for the rivet detail that's on the plastic piece to come through. So obviously you're supposed to wrap the actual plastic piece in that piece of metal. Does it make it look any better than it does? I guess. Would anyone really notice? Because how many people see the bottom of your cars? So that's sort of one of those detail sets that's adds some detail, but I don't necessarily think it's required. Like the mesh for the grills are nice. The brake rotor detail is nice. It's all very nice, but I don't know that it's really super complementary to the kit. You know, if you get the one for the Lancia Delta S4, it has several pieces on it that are not actually plastic pieces in the kit, as far as like an oil flow oil and a coolant overflow tank and things like that. So for the detail-minded modeler, that's kind of a nice. Those are some nice pieces to have. Plus, it comes with all that carbon fiber decals in it. So that's like, oh, that's, oh, I need that. I need that detail upset. That includes a lot of stuff that I would use in it. The Corona one, it's nice. It's nice. There's nothing wrong with it. Don't think I'm bashing it or anything like that. But is it required? I don't know. Not so much. So anyway, guys, that wraps up this one. We hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. For those people who have kids, enjoy enduring your children for this week, because more than likely, like mine, they're going to be out of school for several days. The kids here, they get an early dismissal tomorrow on Tuesday, and then they're off till the following Tuesday. They're off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the following Monday for some reason. I don't understand why they need that extra day off on Monday. I think it might be a what they call an Act 80 day here in Pennsylvania, which is a teacher continuing education day where the kids don't go to school because the teachers are in training. But you know, schedule that for some other 3-day weekend someplace. I don't want my kids for a week. Good God, get them out of here. I jest mostly. You have small children, you know how it is. Anyway, we'll catch you guys and see you on the other side.